Hello and welcome. Today we're getting right to it, talking about something that's literally the framework of our bodies, our bones. We're going to dig into the science and figure out what the absolute best exercises are to build them up and keep them strong for the long haul. I mean, really think about that. It's a question that gets more and more important as time goes on, right? This isn't just about feeling strong. It's about having a foundation that can support you through everything. So, what's the real deal with bone health? And that's exactly why it's so scary. Osteoporosis doesn't usually hurt. There are no obvious symptoms. For so many people, the very first sign that anything is wrong is when a bone breaks, from a simple fall, or sometimes even just a hard cough. And the statistics, well, they're pretty staggering. Just look at this. Roughly 1 out of every 2 women over the age of 50 will break a bone because of osteoporosis. That is a coin flip. It's a risk that's as high as her combined risk of breast, uterine, and ovarian cancer. Okay, but here's where the story takes a turn for the better. This is where we go from the problem to the solution. We are not helpless here. The right kind of exercise is one of the most powerful ways we can literally talk to our skeleton and tell it, hey, you need to get stronger. So let's dive into that. To really understand which exercises work the best, you first have to understand how they work. And it's not magic, it's just this incredible biological process. This right here is the golden rule of bone health. Your bones are smart. They are constantly listening. They aren't just some static scaffolding inside you. They are living, dynamic tissue. And they rebuild themselves based on what you ask them to do. If you ask more of them, they will build themselves up to handle it. Simple as that. And here's the play-by-play. It's like a construction project. When you apply force, these specialized cells, the osteocytes, think of them as the site foreman. They sense that strain. They send out a signal to the osteoblasts, who are the construction crew, telling them to get to work and lay down new, stronger bone. It's a really beautiful system. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Not all exercise sends the same message. You know, a gentle swim is great for your heart, but for your bones, it's barely a whisper. To really get your bones to listen, the message has to be loud. It has to be clear. So what is that loud, clear message? Well, researchers have figured out it really boils down to these 3 things. Strain magnitude is how much force you're using. Think lifting something heavy. Strain rate is how fast you apply that force. Think of a jump. And novelty is just about mixing things up because your bones are smart and they'll start to ignore a routine that never changes. And that brings us to this really interesting idea, the difference between strength and power. For the longest time, we thought it was all about just lifting heavy things. But what we know now is that moving a weight quickly, that's power, is an incredibly powerful signal for bone growth. It's about the speed of that force. Okay, so let's try to organize all of this. We're going to build an exercise pyramid, ranking these different activities based on their impact. We'll start at the bottom with the essentials and work our way up to the absolute most effective bone builders we know of. Right at the base of our pyramid, we're talking about prevention. Because look, having super strong bones doesn't help you one bit if you're prone to falling. So these exercises are your #1 line of defense against the very thing that causes the fracture in the first place. Things like Tai Chi and yoga are just fantastic for this. One huge review of studies found that Tai Chi actually boosted bone density in the spine and the hip. And yoga, it's a triple threat. It's weight-bearing, it's resistance training with your own body, and it's absolutely incredible for your balance. And check this out, a massive 10-year study actually found that a specific 12-minute daily yoga routine improved bone density in the spine and femur. And most of the people in the study already had osteoporosis. But this comes with a really, really important warning. If you have low bone density, safety has to be your #1 priority. Some common yoga moves like deep forward folds or using your arms to really crank yourself into a deep twist, well, those can put a dangerous amount of pressure on your vertebrae. The idea is to make the muscles of your back do the work, not to use leverage that could cause a fracture. Okay, moving up the pyramid, this is the middle tier, and this is where we find the exercises that most people think about when they think of bone health. These are the activities that directly challenge your skeleton to get stronger. So you've got high-impact stuff like running or jumping rope. That sends a really strong, clear message to build bone, especially in your hips and spine. Then you have low-impact options like a brisk walk or using an elliptical. These are a safer bet for some people, and they still work because you're on your feet working against gravity. So, what can you realistically expect from this kind of training? Well, studies show that if you're consistent, you can increase your bone mineral density by about 1 to 4% per year. Now, that might not sound like a ton, but believe me, over time, that adds up and makes a huge, huge difference. And now we're at the top of the pyramid, the peak. For years and years, the advice for people with osteoporosis was basically, be careful, take it easy. But some really groundbreaking research has totally flipped that idea on its head. Meet HIRIT, High Intensity Resistance and Impact Training. We are not just talking about lifting weights here. We are talking about lifting heavy weights, like 80 to 85% of the most you could possibly lift one time. And we're talking about big multi-joint exercises like deadlifts and squats, mixed with some high-impact stuff like jumping. A landmark study called the Lift More trial put this whole idea to the test. They had one group of postmenopausal women with low bone mass do this HIRIT program, and another group do a typical low-intensity home program. The results? They weren't even close. The HIRIT group had way better improvements in bone density at the spine and the hip, and they just got functionally stronger too. Now, this is maybe the single most important thing to understand about HIRIT. The researchers are crystal clear on this. The program was safe because it was supervised. The participants were taught exactly how to do the movements correctly, and they progressed slowly. This is not something you just go and try to figure out on your own. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the spine and the hips, but before we wrap up, there's one other area that we just can't ignore, and that's your wrists. Because when people fall, the wrists are often the first thing to hit the ground. And the good news is it's pretty simple to strengthen them. You can do weight-bearing stuff like push-ups. You can even start against a wall. Using a light dumbbell for some wrist curls and extensions builds up the muscles all around the joint. Even an exercise like a simple bird dog, where you're on all fours, challenges your wrists in a safe and controlled way. So, how do we put this all together? After all this information, what does a smart, effective plan for bone health actually look like? Let's just boil it down to 4 main rules. Number 1, intensity and impact matter. You have to challenge your bones. Number 2, if you're going to go for high intensity, you absolutely need professional supervision. Don't guess, get guidance. Number 3, consistency is everything. Aim for at least 2 to 3 good sessions a week. And number 4, balance is your safety net. Don't ever neglect those foundational exercises. So in the end, the question isn't if you should exercise for your bones, it's how. Your skeleton is literally just waiting for instructions. It's designed to adapt and get stronger. So what new challenge are you going to give it today?